Good evening and welcome to the Business Day. I'm Javon Keys. The Bank of Jamaica's Monetary Policy Committee, MPC, has again lowered the policy interest rate. The MPC met last week and decided to move the rate offered on overnight balances in the current accounts of deposit-taking institutions by 0.25% or 25 basis points. Effective Tuesday, October 1, the policy interest rate will stand at 6.5% per annum. The rate was adjusted downward in August for the first time since 2019 and signaled the end of COVID-19 pandemic-linked rate hikes forced by higher inflation. The move comes after the U.S. Federal Reserve also lowered its benchmark rate. The MPC says this comes as based on the improved outlook of inflation. It says the projected path for inflation over the next 8 quarters is likely to be revised downwards. The MPC's report also says this outlook largely reflects the possibility of a lower than anticipated impact of Hurricane Beryl on agricultural supplies. The decision means Jamaicans could over the next few months see a cut in interest rates on loans and other instruments offered by deposit-taking institutions. Let's head to the market now. The banks and cambios are selling the American dollar for an average $158.70. The Canadian is going for $118.10. $211.72 is the average value of the pound, while the euro is trading for $177.41. Jamaica is being positioned to be a supplier of various goods and services as well as produce to the cruise shipping industry. The largest global cruise company, Carnival Corporation, met with local manufacturers and suppliers in Kingston last week. Is one of the most sought-after destinations for tourism, resulting in cruise lines calling on local ports for much of the year. But the country is looking at even more benefits from cruising, the opportunity to supply the ships with goods. Officials from Carnival were in Jamaica last week. Javonte Anyabuele is vice president in charge of strategic sourcing at Carnival Corporation. He says the country is well positioned to add to Carnival's value chain based on the proximity to its South Florida base.
70% of them originate there. You're really close. So if it's just in case, I've already filled up. If this is the first time, to whatever it may be. So that's from a product standpoint. That could be bad news. The good news is you're also fairly close, so there may be a reason why, unbeknownst to us right now, that we would want to supply from here.
He says the company makes up about 54% of the global cruise market. The VP stressed the need for consistent supply and quality from local suppliers who wish to get into the system. Meanwhile, Tourism Minister Ed Bartlett says Jamaica has to position itself in the supply value chain, of which a large chunk is food.
42% of the expenditure of the visitor is on food. And I was just looking through to see what happens with cruise, for example. That here in the Caribbean, there's a demand for food of, in 2022, $5.3 billion. And it is expected that by 2033, the demand will be $17.3 billion US dollars for just food alone.
He says the envisioned growth would be supported by a local tourism logistics center, helping to supply the region.
And that supply logistics center, which we're well ahead in formulating, beyond policy now to look at the framework for it. A team led by Wilfred Bagaloo, which includes our chairman of the Linkages Network and a number of our manufacturers and suppliers, will drill down into the details of making that a reality within the shortest possible time.
It is still not clear the timeline for this facility or where it will be established. The JSE index gained 5,339 points today, while the junior market increased by 30 points. Among the 62 winners were Guardian Holdings, Access Financial Services, Key Insurance Company, Image Plus Consultants, and JMMB Group 9.5% preference shares. The 34 losers were led by Epley 7.25% preference shares, KLE Group, Foss Rich, Knutsford Express Services, and Mayberry Group. 22 stocks closed the session selling at the same price they started trading. And that's the Business Day. I'm Javon Keys. Good evening.